Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. We are truly right across the world today and honoured to have Raphael, Trappy, Team Black Sheep himself, who's got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to join us, which is great of him. Ian, who's in charge of the pub quiz, as ever, Bruce and Louis. So let's start with Team Black Sheep. Raphael, you had an industry rant this week, and I suspect you've ruffled quite a few feathers with that. Would you like to just quickly lay out your simple position, and we'll see if Bruce, because it only really matters if Bruce disagrees or agrees with you. He's the arbiter of all things. So yeah, we'll see what Bruce thinks. Over to you.
Well, I've been saying this for about a year and a half now, that the FPV, when I talk about the industry, I mean FPV because that's what we focus on. So the FPV has been like 18 months ago, the growth has halted, and it was kind of like at a tipping point. And in the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months, a steady decline has been noticeable across our industry. I'm not mentioning specifically any company or even TBS. I don't think one company can be an indicator for an industry. But if we've been looking at industry numbers, and they're quite troubling to say the least. And it comes together with kind of a vicious cycle of dropping prices that we've been seeing, which kind of deteriorates further investments into innovation. So it's kind of a worrying trend that this rant has kind of tried to at least point out to people that this has been happening, because most of the very vocal people within this industry are still preaching about insane growth and rapid innovation cycles and stuff that I would say people in the know or people that are in this business just shake their heads at and say, what do you mean? Like we haven't had any major breakthrough innovation in the last 2 years. Most of the innovation that is popular right now was kind of founded at the end of this growth cycle. And it looks troubling.
Are you not being a little bit modest there? I think I'm going to say something on your behalf. I think you're being a little bit modest. You've got a little bit of innovation in that you are, I think, still the only people with the ability to have FLARM on their long-range systems. I don't think anybody else has picked up on that, and that's a simple thing you might say, but it impresses me. Are you not a little bit ahead of the game there?
We generally are. Like when I did a presentation in South Korea 2 years ago, which pretty much painted the end of drone racing, which we are approaching very quickly right now.
The end of drone racing? You can't say that. The sky will fall in.
There's a pretty good article on Engadget. That was, I don't know, it just came out like 2 to 3 weeks ago. Kind of plotting the investments that have gone into drone racing, how they have potentially not materialized, or how they have materialized. It's kind of up for a debate, right? And it's a pretty interesting article, especially coming from somebody that isn't really part of the industry. I thought it was really insightful, and kind of resonates with what I've been saying, or TBS has been, or TBS's position has been for the last couple of months.
Isn't that? I'll let someone else. Oh, sorry, Lou. I want to say, isn't the lack of popularity for the races themselves on to the wider public because it's like watching paint dry if you're a spectator?
Oh, that's my phrase, Gary.
So I don't think drone racing is a spectator sport. Just like the latest craze that I've kind of fallen victim to is this Fortnite game. I don't know if you guys have ever played it. It's like a first-person shooter with like strategy involved and whatever. But like if I show this to my parents, they immediately fall asleep. But I'm I'm really captivated by it, and I can spend hours watching other people play this game. Whereas if I watch somebody else play football, I don't really care, right? So drone racing is very much like that in the way that it's captivating to the people that are in the sport, not to outsiders. So it's not really a TV show, but more of a community thing. And I'm not really too stressed about drone racing not becoming a spectator sport or not being spectator friendly. The thing that I'm more worried about is it not being pilot friendly, and pilots are our customers, right? So that is kind of the worrying development.
After you, Louis.
But the FPV and something about the breakthroughs. Do we need breakthroughs, or do we need to look at the technologies that we have and improve them dynamically? So getting more range, is it really needed, or do we need a better transmission within a certain range? Because as you know, and like Bruce has already explained, getting very high power on transmission is not what is required. What we require is good, solid transmission links. So instead of focusing on breakthroughs, shouldn't we consolidate and try to get the things running smoothly and user friendly to the general public?
I would argue that's another breakthrough. So and it's actually it's making stuff more user friendly is very expensive on the one hand, and the kind of the checkmate situation that we are in right now is it's very expensive to the person who does it, but it's highly beneficial to all the other companies that don't, because they then don't have to recuperate the investments, and they can benefit because most of our platforms are open source. They can benefit from all of the work that has been done. So but that is another topic for another strategy discussion about on how developments can be made in this community. But yeah, it's we need different kinds of breakthroughs. I don't think we need more range or more altitude or more flight time or things like this. But obviously, as you mentioned, like better video quality in the form of a digital video transmitter would obviously be really good. There have been rumors about certain companies working on stuff. But I'm not so sure whether that will be a positive development for our community. I'm sure it will be a positive development for that company. I mean, there are way more technologies and way more ideas that can be integrated into this FPV realm, not necessarily in the space of drone racing, but also just general FPV.
It's you keep using the word community, and that's also, I wonder if there really is a community in the.
No. What I was going to ask Raphael is, which community?
Oh, okay.
Because there are a lot of fragmented communities. You guys that form a community, and there are an explosion of communities all around. So not every community has the same interests, and that fragments terribly the markets. And this, should we call it esports?
Yeah, I don't even want to get it there. The fragmentation is, I think, one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now. It wasn't always the case. Like, we used to be FPV pilots, and now we are freestyle pilots, drone pilots, mini quad pilots, wing flyers, and whatever, drone racers, or I don't know who I forgot to mention. So it has kind of fragmented. Not in the sense of the technology, the people that the wing pilots, the mini quad pilots, and all of these pilots, they all fly the same stuff. But they think of themselves as the bearers of all truths, and kind of start fighting over, and you can see this in this industry rant. We weren't even able to find a consensus about whether there is growth or whether there is decline in the industry, even though, in my opinion, during my research, all of the facts point towards a decline, and pretty much everybody that I've talked to has noticed either a slowing of growth, or a very hard decline, and that includes like all of the top manufacturers and top retailers. So it's pretty troubling, because if we cannot even find a consensus on very obvious things, it's almost like, you know, I've likened it to the global warming debate, where, you know, all scientists are saying the temperatures are rising, and you still have a large percentage of the population believing that global warming is a hoax.
Well, it's the chicken in the skies falling in as well. I'm sure Bruce has got some thoughts on all of this. Are you? All right, then. Is there another way of looking at this? Then, let's say you're looking at it from a pessimistic sort of point of view, and most people disagree, but you might be able to position your business in a lot better way than someone's thinking it's still at 9 million % growth. And Maximo, I haven't said hello to you. Hello, Maximo. We'll come to you in a second. Sorry about that. It's very rude. But yeah, are you just not cleverly positioning? Should you not have said this, Rand? Have you shown your hand now? Are you showing that you can maneuver your business?
Well, I don't. To be honest, I've never been much of a business person, or somebody that really cares about financial success. In my opinion, FPV has completely transformed my life. I left university to pursue a dream of building little toys for all kinds of people, and it's really painful to see what the industry has become over the last 2 to 3 years. Just on a like, not on a business note, but more on a personal, like seeing when, you know, I met Bruce, like I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and back then we had our problems, but we had a united front against those problems, or largely united front against those problems. But nowadays we can't even find consensus on basics, and it's really hard to do any kind of groundbreaking work if you don't have consensus among the top companies, among the top opinion leaders, among just the key players within this industry.
But Raphael, can that be because the key players are too fragmented themselves? So the manufacturers, you have yourselves, you have a series of other companies that might or might not have overlapping products. And if you guys don't present a united front, how can the communities or the larger user community in general find a beacon of light to follow? Because that's what we need. We need someone that leads the way. Because if you go to the non-open source market, you clearly have a leader. So it's kind of hard to follow when there's no leader. Everyone follows the favorite color of the month.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a favorite color of the month. I think the fragmentation is mirrored both on the leadership level, if you want to call it that, and on the community side. And usually, if you look into any kind of community, it always mirrors how their leaders behave. So there's this kind of herd mentality, obviously, and it perfectly mirrors what is going on in the upper levels of the FPV industry. Is perfectly mirrored in these little fragmented communities, and it's always been kind of that way, but we used to have I guess I used to have more serious problems, and I think the decline in our customer base right now is again one of these problems where you know, either we come together or we see this this progress or this trend to continue.
So it's not a matter of the not invented here syndrome amongst the manufacturers?
Sorry, I don't understand.
The not invented here. So if someone comes up with the technology and the other manufacturer says, "Oh, it was not invented here, so it's no good."
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is one of the major issues like I wouldn't say it's based on the technology because I mean, to be honest, we are a very small market and our technologies are not that advanced. But I guess therein also lies the problem. It's kind of like, oh, this guy made an antenna, so now I need to make an antenna too, and that is kind of it's diminishing the innovative potential of our industry. Like, let's say we have 500 engineers across this entire industry, and if all 500 of them work on antennas, there's no progress being made elsewhere. And if people don't leave certain places of the markets to others, then certain companies are just forced to basically keep making different kinds of products and getting chased out of their own markets continuously. And that's been happening to a certain extent within our industry, and cloning and copying and all of that is obviously to blame for it. But yeah, I don't think it's a not invented here. It's no cash in my pocket.
That's another issue. Because it's the race to the bottom, as we know it. And
yeah.
If the flight controller, an F4 based flight controller for $15, okay, we clearly we have Boris developing beta flights and a team around him, but then we see all the forks coming out of clean flights from beta flight and all that, and that hurts the development. But it's what we have now.
And I mean, you have people making money with the Betaflight name who do not hold a license to it. Boris has kind of been MIA for the past 6 months. I think the project has now been handed over to somebody else. I think it's a person in New Zealand, if I'm not too wrong. So
Is it Bruce? Is it you, Bruce?
That's not me, mate. It's not me.
I don't know if I should name any names or if even
don't
if
worry,
I'm
nobody
correct,
watches it. It's fine. There's no one here. It's only us. In the comments, Indrone says, "What specific is the decline? The margin the companies make or the development?"
Both. So I mean, market. When I say decline, I mean market size, right? So we have a twofold decline. We have a decline in sorry, let me backtrack a little bit early. So market size is the total volume in sales. So the metric is dollars or pounds or euros. So if the prices are going down and we have the same amount of people that buy the same amount of products, then our market size is shrinking, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, if the prices remain stable, but we have less people, then also the market size is shrinking. And what I think what is happening, and it's very hard to say that for sure, but what I think what is happening is that we have had an increase in people recently, like for the 6 months to 12 months ago, we still had an increase in people, but the prices were going down. So that kind of stabilized the growth. So the amount of people that were coming in was kind of parallel with the amount of price reductions that were happening. But the price reductions haven't stopped, and the people have now stopped coming. So it's kind of been this peak, and now it's starting to go down. And just like by pure coincidence, we were doing some accounting work the last few weeks, and I was going through invoices from 2017 and 2016, so 1 and 2 years ago. And in each of those invoices, we saw that the nominal decrease in prices was about between 15 to 25% year after year. So that's 15 to 25% of growth that went missing. And there's no way on earth that we had a 15 to 25% year over year increase in pilots. And you can see that clearly in all of the metrics. If you take any community, it hasn't grown by that size.
So what do we think then? Is it, oh, we're afraid of the, is it, oh, that looks dull now. I've seen that. That's dull now. On to the next thing. Is it, oh, regulations are coming. They're going to get me. Yeah. What do you think that decline in numbers is based on, or guess?
It's certainly not the regulations. I mean, FPV, as we know, it was banned when we started, and it was banned during our biggest growth. We had the biggest opposition. We had the FAA lawsuit that was like designed to threaten and scare everybody. We had all this during our greatest growth. So I don't think regulation plays a big factor. I don't want to like dictate that discussion too much. I kind of want to leave it. You know, once a consensus has been reached that we're in decline, we have to figure out how to get out of it. One theory that I have is I mean, especially the FPV industry, it's a hobby, and as a hobby, it needs to evolve, or it's always only going to remain a very niche kind of culture. And I think that the expected evolution hasn't happened. So that's why a lot of the players that were only marginally interested have dropped out, and we haven't really been able to attract new people to come in.
And Raphael, and moving up to reaching to other markets, going for the industry market, for the professional markets. What kind of approach does a company that comes from a community-based business to the professional in the industry level business?
Well, I mean, it's very simple. I mean, I think that most of the drone racing technology is very applicable to the industrial sector, and a couple of my peers have already ventured into this space. I think Lumineer got acquired by a venture capital or a VC fund firm that obviously is going to try to go into the industrial sector. So you can see kind of the smart people of the industry kind of shifting course and looking for new avenues of growth. And obviously the industrial sector is the new hope for a lot of companies. But on the other hand, I don't see a very big chance for somebody that comes from this hobby industry, you know, given the market size and the means that we have at our disposals to compete with companies that are pushing into the industrial sector, such as Amazon, DJI, Intel. I mean, it's.
But you've got the electronic conspicuity ready, long range radio link for the BVLOS world, which is about to be, it's about to be a thing, isn't it? Everywhere it's going to be a thing. So you have got, no, I don't work for you and I don't have any of your gear, but you have at the moment, as far as I can tell, the only bit of kit that people in our industry know and understand that they can go off and use commercially that doesn't perhaps belong to a Chinese company that begins with 3 letters.
Yeah, well, not just that. Like it can even be used with. We just recently improved our compatibility with DJI flight controllers. So it's something that there are certain areas where DJI products have problems due to the frequency that they're using, and operators have used Crossfire as a backup link. And I'm not too nervous, and I'm not saying, guys, if you don't buy our products, we will die, right? This is not what I'm saying. And obviously, having anticipated this trend 2 years in advance, we are very well prepared for any kind of scenario. What I'm trying to do with this rant is trying to unify the communities, or the community, and just try to make them understand that this is the problem that we have, and that there are ways of battling these problems, and all it takes is a little bit of creativity, and just coming together and working together, in order to have these new innovations that will then attract back people into the FPV world. And I'm not necessarily partial to any, like, whether it's freestyle, drone racing, long range flying, wing flying. I don't really care. I like them all.
Bruce, you've been very quiet. Come on, you must have a. Let's have your definitive answer.
I've been making notes. I've been writing stuff down. What we're seeing here is nothing more than an industry that has matured. This is typical of the computer industry, the smartphone industry, all these things, the same kind of growth curves. We have rapid growth, a dramatic rise in the number of users, then the number of users stagnates. We've got a lot more players in the market, because when this FPV thing first started, there were only a handful of players in the market. But with the drone sensation taking off, a lot of companies have come in, poured money into it. So now we have a lot of people fighting for a market which is no longer growing, and the only way to compete is to drop the price. And that's produced the situation that Trappy's talking about. The only way we can move things forward is to increase the size of the community. So it's not so much a technology issue, it's not a regulatory issue, it is a recruitment issue. We need to get more people seeing FPV, enjoying the experience, and going, wow, I want to do that. That will increase the size of the community. Therefore, the sales go up in terms of unit, even if the dollar value doesn't go up. And we'll see a lot of the companies that are currently in this market sector will fall away. They'll drop away because they were looking for the quick buck, and they haven't been there for long, and they're finding there's no return on investment. Let's get out, let's do something new, let's go to fidget spinners or whatever the fad of the day is. But the long-term players, it'll consolidate. There'll be fewer people in the industry, but they will be the ones that will be there for the long term. And as far as innovation goes, it's an incremental thing. We're not going to see any dramatic breakthroughs. And if you take chess, for example, chess hasn't changed since day one, and it's got a community that's there. It doesn't grow, it doesn't fade. It's a fixed size community. They've got all the same issues, but they don't really, they just sit there. They're happy with the size of their community. We, of course, are not happy. We need to, keep things going, because we all want to see the next product that comes out of the Team Black Sheep, the Skunkworks or whatever. But we do need to make sure that there's a market for that. And it's the responsibility of the community to get out there and to sell itself to the rest of the world. And we're not doing that. And as Trappy said, we were united initially, but now we're disjointed, we're fragmented, and everyone's doing their own little thing. There are so many sub-disciplines within the community that it's very hard to get everybody together. And Trappy says regulations aren't an issue, but I would disagree a bit there, because now, previously, stuff like FPV was illegal, but nobody really cared because nobody was enforcing things. But now the regulators are starting to move to the enforcement phase, and they're bringing up, in the UK, you can be put in jail now if you break their simple rules. So you've got to be very, very cautious. And this threat of being thrown in jail or fined many, many thousands of pounds or dollars is quite a big one. And it's a big one to parents. And remember, a lot of the new recruits to this community are going to come from younger people. And if little Johnny goes to mum and dad and says, I want to fly FPV, I want a drone, and mum and dad say, no way, you'll end up in jail, boy, he's out of the pool. So we really do need to get together, all pull in the same direction, and grow the community. That's the solution. Grow the number of people flying FPV. It's the only way out of this situation. Otherwise, we will be like the cell phone market and the computer market, reached peak FPV, and from here on it's just a case of existing and not growing, and we'll end up at just a tiny niche in the community of many, many different hobbies and activities.
Yeah, fully agree on that.
And we've seen this with all other disciplines, from RC, radio control modeling, for the cars, the planes, the helicopters, now the drones. So it's something that is repeating itself time after time after time. So then you have vertical silos of communities that live around a specific discipline of radio control modeling.
Has we'll bring Ian in very shortly as well for the UK stuff, but has the DJI's Argos release in the UK of their latest product, is that also pointing to a sort of a mare marketplace at the moment? I mean, that is, I don't know. Anyone got any thoughts on the new, maybe not DJI machine?
Oh, I mean,
well, it's not a breakthrough, is it?
No, it's not. But I think that they don't have to. It would be foolish of them to show all of their cards at this point in time.
Well, all they had to do was knock the Autel Evo out of the way, I think, and yeah, it's simple, done, isn't it? I don't know.
Sure. Are you sure, Gary? Does the Autel has the commercial network that DJI has?
Oh no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. But
so they can even get away because they're still selling today the old Mavics and the old Sparks, although the Mavics and Sparks are now under the laws. So you'll get lots of secondhand products on eBays around the world. But
I'm very surprised at the number of people, especially like the UK one now. It's popping up in threads everywhere. What just happened? And it's like, are you not paying attention, people? You've got to pay attention, because if you don't pay attention, you'll end up with rules and regulations that you don't want. And yeah,
the thing on DJI is that perhaps those smaller models will improve the capabilities of image capture and transmission in high quality, and that will attract new markets from the casual, obviously.
They're very good machines. They're very good machines of that. There can be no doubt, but there hasn't been that much of a change really in these ones. It's not lacking the G-Whiz.
Do they need to?
What amazes me is they're still advertising an 8-kilometer range when it's all completely, BV loss is outlawed everywhere. No one seems to care about that. But I think the future, if we want to grow the community, we've got to get looking very seriously at the sub 250 grams, because that takes us out of the regulatory framework in so many places, and it makes it easier to convince the community. It's not a drone, it's a toy. Let's get involved, because this whole having to register, if someone has to register to partake in a hobby, they have to register with the government. That's a huge hurdle, I think, to a lot of people. I don't want to be registered with the government, just play with my toys. But if you get under that, and of course, technology is moving so quickly, there are sub 250 gram drones now that are really capable. And I think that may be where, perhaps not DJI, but where a number of other people in the community will be heading. What have you got there, Gary?
It's a 3D rendering. This is a goalpost. It's a goalpost moving. Yeah. It's a moving goalpost. Because as soon as
there'll be VCs chasing you, mate.
Oh, I know, absolutely. I'm working on the next few iterations. But as soon as you say 200, as soon as they make that sub 250 gram thing really capable, which we pretty much are. What's the Spark 260, something like that? As soon as you get there, they will move the goalposts, and 250 will also get pulled into regulation as well.
The benefit is regulators move so slowly; it'll give a window of growth. And if someone's having a lot of fun with a 250 gram machine,
that as well,
then by the time the regulations move, they'll say, "Oh, I might as well register or go."
Come on, Bruce! Don't think that, because they only have to change 3 digits on the law. So instead of 250, they put it 000. And
yeah, but it has to be approved. I don't know about where you are, but in New Zealand, for them to change the regulations, it has to go through approval of the cabinet and things. And it is a long-winded process. New Zealand's about to undergo some regulatory changes. In fact, we have reached peak drone regulation. I have some secret inside info that they're going to be slacking the ropes quite considerably on the rules here in New Zealand. They have sort of had them wound up really tight, and now they're loosening them off because they're seeing that if you have them too tight, people just ignore them. So I think they've accepted a lot of the information and lobbying that's gone in, and they've come to a far more balanced perspective on what you should be allowed to do and not allowed to do. I think New Zealand is going to finally lead the world in backing off of it, and that's going to make things a whole lot easier.
Well, Ian, I guess that does let you. Well, whilst New Zealand relaxes, the UK constrains. Ian, lead the way, please.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on of recent. So we've got the law that's just come into force, which we knew about, which is the 400-foot limit and a kilometre away from airports, which we may end up changing because that's part of the consultation. So, and we saw from last time where it looked like FPV, the exemption from that had been lost, and then we've seen a kind of slight U-turn on that where it's still there, but it's under different. It's stricter in that you can't have an autonomous vehicle to 1,000 foot, and it can't be a multi-rotor either. So it's back, but a more restrictive. I can understand the CAA with that because you had lots of Mavic users saying, "Well, I'll use that as a loophole to get over the 400," which is a shame because it's a loss. And I think to say no, not to have any autonomy, it's not safer because having returned to home. It's a fair enough feature there as a fail-safe, but that's been taken away because they're just scared of people abusing that for drone use. And we've got a consultation on proposed future laws, which they're quite. I mean, some people are thinking, "Oh, great, fantastic," but those people are the ones that want to actually lock out future participants in the commercial drone industry. That's what it's about, really. People fear, because at the moment, so many people have enjoyed drones as a hobby, and they thought, "Well, I'm enjoying this, I'll make it into a business." So now we've got, like 4,000 small drone businesses that have permission for aerial work, and there's a risk that will keep on growing because it used to cost, probably 1,500 to 2,000 to get your permission. There's lots of training companies now offering that down to £500. You've got more people coming into both the legal, and obviously you've got people that are effectively illegally operating, and they're doing work anyway without any permission. So the prices are all falling, and I think some of the people that will be advising the government aren't doing it for this is safe and this is the right thing to do. They're doing it for to line their own pockets because they want to lock out future entrants into the drone industry, which I think is disappointing because I'm sort of pro drone industry. I want to see the industry growing and it to be democratized and be open to everybody. I want the rules and all that around it and so on, but I don't want it where it's as strict as we're going. So we've got a proposed age limit, which will make it so that you have to be over 18 so that you can drink beer, have sex, drive a car before you can be flying a camera drone, which I think's I just think it's too high. The argument's being gone. So
sorry, Bruce would do all of those at the same time, of course. But anyway, carry on. And
from reading the document, it's quite a long document, so it's trying to understand the reasons behind every point. You kind of have to read between the lines, but the impression I get is, it even talks about the dangers of doing this, in that if kids don't see drones, then how are we ever going to have a drone industry? Because you've got to be exposed to technology. It's like we had the computer boom of the 80s where kids were all programming in the bedroom, and they then grew up to be developers and software testers and so on. And I think if you've only got the 250 gram option and it's seen as a toy, there'll be far less people engaged with them, because a lot of the reasons people want drones is they want the camera drone, they want to film stuff, they want to film themselves with their mates, they want to do selfies, and you're not going to have that ability there. So I think there's a genuine risk there, but it was trying to suggest that we want 18 because that's when you can get insurance. But I'm sure you can get insurance. Well, if you can drive a car at 17, you must be able to get insurance below 18. So I didn't quite understand that argument within the document, but there was a suggestion there that was one of the reasons. So we've got that as an immediate concern. They're talking about the distance from the airports and whether that should be consulted on. Well, that's fine. If people can debate that and work out what's sensible there. So I don't think anyone has issues with that. They then talked about flight information and notification systems, which they call FINS for short, and that's about providing data on the area you're flying in, whether it's no-fly zone, who's operating around you. But there's some worries there because it's talking about pre-notifying your flight. Now, there's even talk of notifying in 5 days in advance and then doing it something closer up to when you're going to fly. Now, 5 days in advance, you don't even know if the weather's going to be good enough, never mind anything else. But you're not going to go, oh, well, I want to film a sunset. Yeah, I've got to file that 5 days in advance. But even when it talks about doing it half an hour or even 5 minutes before, that's not the way most, certainly not a hobbyist, is going to operate. If you see, if you've seen you want to capture an event happening, it's happening there, and then people complaining of, oh, the time it takes my GPS lock and so on. But there's also that if you were trying to report the news and an incident's happening, oh, well, I've got to file this, send it off, wait. By the time you've got up, whatever you're supposed to be filming could have already ended. So there's that that's a concern. And also that they're talking about sharing the data. Oh, we'll anonymise it and I'll give it to, and it sounds like it'll start with the government agencies and then it'll be being flogged off to anybody. And that concerns me as well. I mean, we've even seen that with the NHS system where it started off and said, oh, well, everything's anonymised. And then you've got private sector companies getting data and even getting more data than they should do. So I'd have a concern there. There's then more police powers, on-the-spot penalties, and a whole range of powers that it concerned me. I thought the police needed more power, but this feels to me that it's overstepping the mark because they want data off your drone. Now, when a police officer turns up, they don't ever have anything for taking digital data. So they're going to say, give me your SD card. They're going to put off your SD card. You're never going to see it again. And SD cards cost quite a lot of money for decent ones these days. So I'd kind of resent, having to give away an SD card and never seeing it again. If they have the thing where they can bring it on, connect it to your drone, copy it off, fair enough. But I know that they won't think that far ahead. And what will probably happen is they'll probably end up just taking your drone and you'll be ages before you see it again. And it's the fact that I think they've got the power to enter your house, check your vehicle, and it's police do abuse powers, and that does concern me. I know it from personal experience because my own brother went through a divorce, and his wife was a civilian police worker, and he was being pulled over by the police, by her friends to give him a hard time. And when you get that happening, if that's going to be happening to drone users, you can even get a police drone pilot in his spare time, does commercial work, wants to give hard time to the competition, and he'll have all that data there to do it. And then there's the other powers to talk about, which are getting even scarier, which is using drone effectors so that people in authority will be able to take over your drone, cause it to RTL, potentially crash it. And then, are they going to cover it in insurance when the mistakes are made, or someone thinks, I want to be lols if we just, take this drone down? I don't ever feel that anyone's ever entirely trusted. We've seen it with CCTV operators. You've got to go for all this training, all the data protection laws, and then the spying into people's apartments. We've even had a case with a police helicopter with South Yorkshire Police. So I think one person there was ended up with some charges. So the thing concerns me that whatever you do, it will always be abused. So I would have liked to have seen the police powers being taken back. And it gets even scarier because it even says, oh, we're going to grant these powers potentially to PCSOs. They're a voluntary kind of policemen that have no powers. And it's, and then we'll give it to council workers. So it's just something that, it's powers that have been given away, and we don't know where it's going to end.
Well, it's going to end. It's going to end in deliveries from this because it's only in the sky.
Well, yeah, it's. I feel with this because the talk, and again, it uses the PricewaterhouseCoopers report. Oh, the industry is going to boom, and we're doing this because we need to control it. And at the same time, we don't want to prevent the industry growing, but I think it is going to prevent the industry growing if we crack down too hard. And I guess that's why the consultation's there. But my worry is your average everyday drone users there, the chances are they're probably not going to go online and fill out this form. It's very long. I think when I did it takes at least an hour to complete this thing. And a lot of the questions you go through, unless you've read the 90 odd pages, or in fact, I think here it's 100 and it's saying on here it's 169 what I'm looking at the moment, but it's, oh no, that's matchy. So it's about 100 pages. Then there's other stuff. Unless you've read all that, you don't understand all the context to the questions as they go through, because they're just one paragraph. So the flight information notification system, it's not quite clear on that. And then even within the age limit, I was never quite clear. Is it stopping them selling them? Is it stopping the operation of? Because it's been suggested, well, your parent can buy it and then you can use it, but it isn't quite clear enough there. And I thought with that, can't we use technology instead? If we're going to say, well, we need to limit what kids could do, can't we just have it that we say, well, you can only go to 100 foot and you can only go 200 meters away instead of 500, something, something where instead of saying no, you can't do it, say you've got more restrictions around it. And then, because I mean, even DJI and that, they can put those limits there into the drone, say, yeah, we've got that, or even do it on particular models, and then you've got a better balance. But yeah, it's just going instead, let's legislate, let's put fines behind it, let's make everyone 18 so that we can fine you or we can stick you in prison. And the questions I have is, has anyone, well, A, is who's actually looked at the risk and actual events that are happening? So how many people have actually been injured? How much property is actually being damaged? And put a genuine case behind it, because there isn't. It's all based off air procs reports and people making up scenarios. Go on, Gary, you're going to.
Well, do you happen to know anybody that might have been putting lots of freedom of information requests into the police?
Well, yes, obviously that's something I've done. I know others are doing. And the trouble is, when you start looking at the statistics, you're thinking, well, what's going on here? For one, the prison service, I've asked freedom of information, straightforward question. How many contraband smuggling incidents have there been by visitors, by prison staff, by drones? It's a fair enough question to ask government. They will not answer it. Now, they do an annual report that does some figures without the detail, but even then, of contraband that's found in the last year in prison, this is found, not just floating around, so this will be the iceberg. It's 50-odd thousand contraband incidents. And you're like, and last figure we did get for drones was to be 33 in a year. And I'm sorry, drones are not carrying that amount of contraband in the prisons. And if you look, obviously in prisons, even before drones existed, contraband's always been there. It's always been a problem. It's going in for the prison staff because they're not paid enough. And that's the issue in the day. They're not getting paid enough money. And rather than saying that's our root cause issue, it's like, let's find a smoke screen. And now it's become drones. But then because this then has been a perception that's out there, you've then got ministers in other departments thinking, oh, well, we better do something about this. So that's where all the counter-drone stuff's coming from. And the powers in this as well, because prison officers have got all access to these proposed bin systems as well. So we're kind of being penalised for problems that aren't anywhere near as big as they're made out to be. So we're told all the calls to the police, as we discussed before, and there's probably more calls to the police about fireworks going off and about motorcyclists, the quad bikes and noisy motorcycles, because it's not even 0.001%. It's fractional. It's a couple of dozen, or at most a couple of hundred calls. And when we talked, even where it was like 100 calls, if you looked at those, many of those were my drone's being stolen, or I've received an email that looked fraudulent about drones. You actually pulled it all away, and the actual number of drone complaints, whereas again it was far smaller. So we've had all this hype around drones and all this fear, and then it's brought in all this regulation and legislation. So I think that people feel slightly aggrieved by it, which is right. But I think it will harm the industry. I mean, how can it not? If you can't buy a drone for an under 18, well, what retailers, Christmas, that's going to be bloody miserable, isn't it? We can have people going to the wall for that, and I think we will then lose those skills. That we'll have less IT people. And we've already got that problem in the UK. If you've got a lot of companies, they haven't got anyone under 30 that's there that can program, and we're just going to exacerbate that problem.
Have you got any idea of the number of prosecutions or anything like that might have
yeah, I mean, if we looked at the current legislation, and then the current legislation could be used, for example, and this is the thing that actually annoys me, that again, when they've said under 18s, if you look on YouTube at the people that are absolutely being idiots and going, I am being an idiot with my drone, here is me, They're adults. You know, they're at least in the late teens, usually in the 20s. It's all that narcissist, look at me on YouTube, I want the views because I know it's monetized and I'm going to get some money in my pocket. And that's what it's all about. So actually, we could actually counter this by just getting YouTube to pull all the videos. So this is illegal drone use, down. They don't get the monetization. You take away the temptation to do it in the first place. But that aside, yeah, we've got...
I'd go broke.
Go on.
I'd go broke if you did that, mate.
Yeah, but you're not. You're there as someone that's into RC, telling people, giving you opinions and that. So that wouldn't be you. You're not there. What I'm thinking of, as we said before, we can name people in the UK, even though a lot of you aren't in the UK, you could name people that you know here are breaking law because they have YouTube channels and they're going, look at me, I'm flying down the street in London. Here's me with the controller. Here's the drone next to me. Here's my face. Here's me giving you a name. And the police are not arresting them. So you've got that there already. So you could use the existing law. Because at the moment, we've got cases of motorcyclists driving down the motorway at 150 miles an hour. And because they put a video online, they've not got the face. They're not going, it's me. So you've only seen the hands. You're seeing first-person view from their GoPro on that. They could put them in prison. But they're saying, we can't do that with drone pilots unless you give us more powers. It's nonsense. So that's why it frustrates me at the moment. We have the laws. And yet, to get to the answer that you're asking for, last year, England and Wales, there was 2 prosecutions. Scotland, 0. Scotland's figures are a bit behind. So I've heard there could be up to 6 coming through. But at the moment, it's 0. And Northern Ireland is 0. So, what other crime in the entire of the country that only has 2 prosecutions would even make the news?
But aren't you making the case for stronger regulations? If people aren't breaking the regulations, you need to toughen them up.
Yes. How are we ever going to earn money? How are we ever going to earn money if you can't get them? But you're right. Yes, I mean that is the bottom line. And as you know, we don't believe in common sense in this, and that's common sensian. There's only been two prosecutions, so it's common sense that we don't need all this drama. But yeah, we don't agree.
It's the same in New Zealand. I think there's been 2 prosecutions in the last 3 years, and I think our regulator has learned from that well, gosh, the magnitude of the problem has been greatly overstated. Therefore, it's unreasonable to have these really restrictive regulations that are serving no purpose other than to effectively criminalize people that are not endangering life or property. So they need to align the regulations with the risk factor, and then they're going to get the compliance.
Bruce, can I do the devil's advocate?
No.
If there are no contraventions or prosecutions, that means that our legislation is too soft. So we must toughen it up to get more people in the net.
Exactly, mate. Fines are an important source of revenue for the government.
And we know that.
And to be honest, most of this is about fining you, and it'll only be, if you're doing something really, really, really stupid, that you'll end up in prison potentially. But I mean, I think there is an argument to say it is tough for the police to get people at the moment, and we need more legislation to deal with that. But I think what's been proposed here is taking that logic and taking it a step too far. That's for people to debate, and that's why it's important that they use the consultation. I think at this point, actually, we've probably ought to do a quiz since I've got...
Go on then. It's pub quiz time!
Yes. So we'll start off with one. I don't know if you can see this here. So if you breach... so we'll give you an example here. If you fail to produce evidence that a flight plan was submitted before flying, assuming that gets legislated as being compulsory, how much could you be fined by a police officer? So if you all have a guess at that, what you think your figure would be?
By police officer or by the courts?
This would be on the spot, so that gives you a bit of a hint of which one's not going to be it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna guess 300. Anyone else gonna?
I'm with you, Gary.
And don't forget, you can already file that flight plan on SUS News. We already have that technology. It's on the drone safety map, and you can do that. So it's not that much of a problem. But anyway, on you go, Ian.
Oh, advertising there.
Yeah, I know. Shocking, isn't it? Yeah, but it's right. I don't earn any money out of that. It's just...
you're right on this. It'll be between, they haven't decided yet, but between £100 and £300. They base that off how much they would find motorists. But I don't think someone owning a drone that's probably cost, you know, maybe 600 quid, that having fines in the same proportion you have for cars is necessarily fair.
But that's just it's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, poor old Trappies. But it is. Are we going to be will there be an industry left for this to worry about anyway? But where is the? I'm sure we all start. And I persistently have this rant, but I'm sure we were all 10-year-old boys who couldn't really afford radio control gear and all the other stuff, and tried to make model airplanes fly. And just the idea of having to file a flight plan when you're 11 or 12 or 13 to fly a model glider in a field somewhere in the West Country. They
have to wait till they're 18, Gary.
I know but it's just the innovation will go. There is a 10-year-old girl or boy out there now that's going to have an amazing idea, or they would have had an amazing idea, but they're going to be playing Nintendo or whatever game it is. They're going to be playing Trappy online in whatever game.
Fortnite, yeah.
Fortnite, there we are.
Bruce knows what's up.
Yeah, he knows. He's down with the kids. I ignore my teenagers. But yeah, it's just going to kill innovation, and that just annoys the nuts out of me.
Yeah, I mean, if you took this analogy, I mean, you'd think it was ridiculous if you to file a plan to take your car down to the shop to buy some bread. And in fact, if you had to go through that, you think, sod it, I'll just use Amazon.
Oh, that's good, because they'll be able to deliver by drone, because all those model airplanes and FPV flyers will be out the way.
I mean,
and that's what's
to that point.
We're going to get all these. Someone's mentioning 4G in the comments there, but aviation regulators around the world have said no way are we going to allow C2 links over the cellular system at the moment, and that's why AT&T and a few of the other big names are pushing hard to get that to happen, because they want to slice the pie with Amazon for the delivery. So when that fails and all doesn't work as they think they are, we're going to be left with these draconian regulations, and all these buggers will have gone. Anyway, I'm ranting over.
There should not be a problem, because in the meantime, we at Ardo Pilot are going to get our drones so smart and so dependable that we can have perfect deliveries, perfect pickups of parcels, everything that we want from a good drone, and that's why we have matching.
AI.
Oh,
AI?
No. Before AI, you have to know what the drone is doing.
That's why we have in there. Got to have Bruce chain.
No, it doesn't have Bruce chain yet, but Maxime is planning on implementing Bruce chain. And you know, Maxime, Gary is the author, and his company is the authors of a great tool. Online tool for Ardo Pilot for the interpretation of logs, so that the user community can benefit from good, properly tuned drones.
And well, maybe you can tell us how that's going to work. How would that make my drone better tuned?
Maxime, it's your turn.
Hi, Gary. So the thing is, like, it's a flight analysis rather than interpretation, and so you can do like fast analysis. You can share with some people, like in a discussion, and it's designed like if you are developing or you want to analyze or find a problem, you can just drag and drop to the browser and you can see all the problems, or you can analyze and find it. There were also some like interesting features from the Ardo Pilot community, so which they want, like we can see like multi-charts and like zoom synchronization, other stuff which we did recently. And even if like some user wants to share data, but they don't want to get tracked where they flew the drone, so there is even like randomized GPS trajectory button, so which they can randomize all the GPS path in some random location in Africa, and they can share with the whole community.
And that's what we want for the user community to start using when they share with us the logs. You know this problem, Gary. When a user reports a problem, the first thing that we all say at Ardo Pilot is, "Where are the logs?" So this way we can start having a log analysis tool that the user can start doing some work from themselves, and this is something that we approached dron.ee to start working with us, so that we can provide this service for free. Basically, it's for free to the user community of ArdoPilot. So we are on the final stages of providing the tool on ArdoPilot, but the tool is already available at Maxim's website.
I've put that up in the comments. That's Droney, and I should also mention that if you're flying with ArdoPilot, you can also file that flight plan as well. That's also in Mission Planner. Not saying, but I don't think I don't agree necessarily with that idea, but you can do it, and I don't agree with it from the point of standard model flying. Why? And if it's only to get out of the way of delivery drones, then yeah, you know, nah. I don't know. Trappy, what's your thoughts? You've unmuted your mic. You must have some thoughts.
Well, I share my thoughts at length about regulations, and it's just happily ignore them and continue flying. That's like one of the, maybe a quick anecdote. When we first started our company in Austria, the Austrian government introduced a requirement to file flight plans for commercial operators, and because we would have registered a business in Austria that develops drones, we would have been classified as a commercial operator, and we would have had to file flight plans, which took up to 2 to 3 months for approval at that time. And you had to specify all the components that were used. So, for example, if I were to build a prototype drone, I would have to finish building it and then send in a proposal for approval, and then I could fly my drone 3 months later. And if I changed a single screw, I would have to file the approval again, strictly speaking. So that was, it wasn't the deciding factor, but it was one of the reasons. I mean, back then we were in pretty much in monthly conflict with the law, just based on the flying that we did, outside of our business. But that was a genuine concern at that time, and we moved our business abroad, and we've been creating a lot of jobs here in Hong Kong, and I think the Hong Kong people are happy that we're here. We haven't killed anybody yet, so we haven't even hurt anybody. So we're working on that very hard, and trying to break as many rules as we can to get into trouble. But Hong Kong, for some reason, doesn't seem to mind, and they seem to be very welcoming of the FPV industry and of the drone industry in general. So I would say if a country makes too strict regulations, well then, if they're really as strict as, like, for example, Dubai, or as Ian has now pointed out, that's what's happening in the UK. Well, then the industry, I think, will just move elsewhere. This is not a technology that can be stopped.
Oh, that's just top line. You win the lines there. Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's all a worry. But anything that any projects can do with as with the training guys and log file and getting it all safe, because that's the thing, is also getting it. I mean, I wonder how many more times, or how, very poor English, but it must be several orders of magnitude more reliable and safer than it was getting on for 10 years ago now. It must be. It must be. And then the rate of change must be getting even faster for that.
Yeah, and that's why, for instance, at ArdoPilot, we feel the need, because we had a tool a couple of years ago that was an online tool, and that tool was valuable for the ArdoPilot developer community to pinpoint problems, issues, and we were lacking that. And that's why one of the big advantages of the Plot dron.ee tool is that it runs in your browser, so you don't have to send data to anywhere else. So you run it very fast on your browser, and you pick up a very large log and analyze it almost instantly in the blink of the eye because it is running on your browser. And that is very helpful, for instance, when you're trying to come up with a problem. I had a recent problem with one of my drones that I couldn't understand what was wrong, and in the fields with a normal browser, I could pinpoint and troubleshoot it right there at that moment, and that is good to know. We need more tools like this to do analysis, and then the next point, the troubleshooting that we need.
Yeah, and Max, it's not the only thing you guys do. You also sell stuff as well, don't you? You've got flying. I think Trappy's heard about flying wings. You sell a flying mapping wing, I think, as well.
Yeah, we do like sell flying mapping wing for like that you can use with Sony camera, and also like Pirate Sequoia, which like built in, and you can just put the camera and it triggers with Wi-Fi, and all you need to like put some settings, what kind of survey or mapping you want to do, what kind of overlap percentage and side lap percentage, and choose the area with like your fingers, the regular that you use your iPhone or iPad. And so it's quite easy for mapping.
I shall put a link to your company as well as the products in the comments, as they say.
Have you seen one of the products they have, and I find extremely curious, is a carrier board for the cubes that has Raspberry Pi on board. Have you seen that one?
I did see that one, and trust you to mention it. Yes. Yes.
That one is very, very compelling because, as you remember, the Cube, when it was launched, it had the capability of having one of those small Intel boards that Intel, in the meantime, has discontinued. And this is a great approach because even the compute board has a great computing capacity. So
yeah, it's like 1 gigahertz for like 4 quad core, like which if you want to do like external application, like some can be even like image processing or other things, or for research purposes. And we also put like around like 3 to 5 kilometer data link. So if you buy it, you can get like this link as well.
Yeah, well, it's definitely the way things are going now, isn't it? Having your pilot and your co-pilot, if you will, the main autopilot, and then another board doing other stuff while it's being driven around. It's definitely the way things are going.
Gary, this is the future of air autonomous that you launched.
Yeah,
so you program the Raspberry Pi, and it does the deliveries competing with Amazon. So air autonomous versus.
Oh, conspicuously absent from Farnborough this year, and then not seemingly putting out any Jeremy Clarkson-based Christmas adverts anymore either. That old Amazon, but scooping up patents left, right, and centre. Look, we've gone over the hour. Does anything else caught anybody's eye before we depart this week? Oh. Look, Bruce is looking at notes.
We are missing the latest release of Bruce Rants this week because Bruce is slacking us. So
yeah, I'm rented out.
So come on.
I'm
busy dodging hitmen from the AMA. It's very busy, very tiring.
Yes, you have caused a bit of a storm with that, and it's quite a large teacup. But I must admit, I am bemused. But that's part of I guess, the message of getting people into the industry as well. Though is we're not doing very well at getting people in, and we're not doing very well at informing people of what's being done in their name.
Does anyone knows if there's been any development since the last time we spoke about this? So absolute silence, right?
I think the AMA put a position out, didn't they, Bruce? They sent everyone a little doll of you and a set of pins. Yeah.
Purely coincidentally, I've been totally assured the day after I put my video out, they issued a statement on it. There must have been in the pipeline. It was just, strange timing that it wasn't a response to my video. It wasn't produced by my video. It was in the pipeline anyway. So they just said basically, no, we're working behind the scenes. We're on it. But somehow I'm just not that confident. And I think what we have to do is everybody who flies FPV has to give themselves a target to expose one new person to FPV every week. Because every time I show someone FPV, just a member of the public, if I'm flying in the park and a member of the public comes along and I let them put the goggles on and fly it around, they're all absolutely they're absolutely blown away by the experience. And a lot of people have said, wow, where do I get one of these? And if we did that, if every person did that once a week, we'd grow the community really, really quickly. But I think we're too busy just enjoying ourselves. We've got to remember we've got a responsibility to the wider community to make sure that other people are exposed to this fun, because hey, we know it's fun.
I'm hopeless at it, but I do enjoy it. It's good fun, and watching it, as I say, it's like watching paint dry, watching other people fly, but it's great fun.
It's a recreational drug, and if you're not into it, it's like watching someone smoke marijuana. There's really not a lot of fun in that, but it's good fun for the actual participant. So we've got to realize that we've got to bring people in. They've got to be doing it, not just looking at it. I mean, this drone racing thing, I knew that it would never fly, metaphorically speaking. And even the X class, it's not like Formula One. There's not the same noise, there's not the same risk to human life. It's like really, really fast chess, and you don't get a lot of people watching chess. So we need to bring participants in. It's a participant sport. It's not a spectator sport.
Come on, Bruce. Have you seen the new competitor to Formula One, the Formula E?
Yeah.
It has all the ingredients, less the noise. So
yeah, it is a shame, isn't it? I'm going to go to one comment from the comments, and it's for Trappy. Could TBS get with Ollie W and help him miniaturize his gimbal boards and get some? It's not many things for you to do now, and get some low KV 110 or 130X motors wound, so we can stabilize, run cams, split minis at least. So there we are. You get that done tomorrow, won't you?
I haven't actually looked into gimbal technology for quite some time. It's kind of it's been a market that nearly killed us. Obviously, going head to head with DJI, so we very happily left that market behind and we're focusing on the mini quad thing. I don't think that hardware stabilization of gimbals is still necessary. I think DJI is going to drop something really cool next time around.
So the next one's the one worth waiting for then.
I don't know, like
the Christmas one.
I've been saying this for 2 to 3 years now. Like, come on, they had to have looked at Parrot, like how they did it, and figured out a way to do it just as well, if not better, right?
And you'll be right eventually. You just keep saying it. It will be right eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be.
I think that the trouble with doing it as a fixed sensor and then doing it all in software and hardware is you've still got an issue on image quality, because that's how the GoPro Fusion works. So for doing 360 video, I think having a drone and having sensor on, probably back, front, maybe even top as well, I think there's definitely a market there, and I think probably that's where GoPro would have ended up had the not bailed out of the industry. So I think there's definitely potential for DJI to think about that, because 360 video, if you've ever done it, I think it's really cool. If you've got your, if I can see, if you've got your VR, being able to play your video back afterwards in VR as though you're there, or even your photo.
Oh my God, another gadget. We already have the normal goggles.
Another one. Sorry, another one for Trappy, and I'll let you come back. Sorry, Ian. Can I use Crossfire and 1.3 gigs video reliably without a notch filter?
No. The video receivers are too bad right now. They cannot filter between 900 megahertz, or actually they're supposed to receive 900 megahertz. So most of the 1.3 gigahertz receivers actually go down to 900 megahertz, and that's why they can't filter it out. So it's not actually the crossfire noising on 1.3. It's the video receiver on 1.3 thinking that 900 is a valid 1.3 signal.
So you're too close. Yeah.
Maybe with the smaller receiver modules, they're a little bit more modern, but most of the big receivers, they're actually built from the satellite communication days. And as such, they have very poor filtering. Just
mount your video receiver on a ground station several hundred meters away and use a 5.8 gig link to your goggles.
Yeah.
You'll get around it.
Yeah.
Simple.
Doesn't have to be 100 meters. 20 meters is fine.
No, that's because no one will stand next. Bruce has to do that because no one will stand next to him. So his link has to be several kilometers. Actually,
CAA have given me an exclusion zone.
Yes, yes, that's right. You got a thumbs up there from the comments. Okay, guys, I think. Does anyone else have anything else before we go? Go once. Going twice. Raphael, thank you very much for getting up so early in the morning. It's probably your start of your working day now. It's very kind of you to get out of bed early and speak to us. I'm sure you will find creative and clever ways of staying in business. When Ian mentioned GoPro there, I thought, Trappy's probably been in business long. You've lasted longer than GoPro. You started before and you're still going. That's what I thought anyway. I know you put that as one.
Raphael, let's start a rumor now. Isn't GoPro for sale? Aren't you a buyer?
Did you guys read about DJI turning down GoPro? Like they approached DJI about selling the company to DJI, and DJI said no, not interested.
Why? Let's look at that a business perspective. They bought Hasselblad. Why would they want a GoPro?
Well, yeah. But that's only them kicking it back at GoPro from when GoPro kicked them back back in the day.
Exactly.
So it was like,
what was the movie that said payback is there?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, that was. But actually, don't those days seem so far away now? The days of course, that's peak 3DR, peak this, peak that, peak GoPro. You know, it was very, very different scene, wasn't it? Different optics of, you know, our drones are going to rule the world. Regulators will get out of the way.
Polaroid. They could have bought Polaroid for $20.
Well, GoPro went for $1, didn't it?
I don't know.
Something like that.
One struck me with GoPro is they have slightly shot themselves in the foot because obviously 3DR did the deal with them on the Solo and said we'll have our drone support the GoPro, and then GoPro really shit on them in the fact that they then said, oh, we'll do our own drone. But then what they did was they removed the Hero port, and then the Hero port was obviously the way you could actually control a GoPro and use it on the drone. So they've taken that away now, but now they've got rid of the Karma. That means nobody can think about putting a GoPro on the gimbal because you could stabilize it, but you can't have any control. And if you can't, these days, for consumer, it is not acceptable. Not have control. You want control of shutter speed, exposure. You even want log profiles and that these days. And so no one's going to be able to put a GoPro on a drone. So they've actually taken themselves completely out of the market unless they do a 360 and decide, oh, well, we'll add some of that functionality back. But as it stands at the moment, the only thing they've got to sell that's a cool product is the Fusion, and the 360 element on that. It does work really well, but it's definitely a niche market.
No, we're super niche, aren't we? We're still going. We've got to go. We've kept going another 12 minutes. All right, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks very much indeed, everyone. Thanks, Bruce. We're looking forward to Not So Weekly news, which is also still not so weekly. Louis, thanks very much. Keep doing the windmills. Maxine, thanks very much. Ian, as ever, love the quiz. And Trappy, again, thanks very much for joining us. Dear viewer, 2100 GMT next week. Be safe, whatever you're doing this week. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye.